Imagine a dark night. Then all of a sudden you're taken against your will, abducted. You wake up in a strange place being given commands you don't quite understand, but you know you must obey. Strange creatures force you to do their bidding, endlessly serving them day in, day out, in the cold, unforgiving void of space far from your home. Anyway, enough talk about how I got this job. Let's talk about one of my favorite subjects. Alien abduction. Now we talk a lot about aliens on this channel. Stories, sightings, videos, but these ones, we're gonna be talking about some fictional aliens. I'll get that right off the bat. We're gonna be taking a look at some little green men you absolutely would not want to meet. So these are the top 5 scary alien entities that want to abduct you. And I'm so sorry if you clicked on this thinking they were gonna be real. We gotta trick you sometimes. Let me know down below in the comments if there was a famous fictional alien that abducts people that I missed out on. Maybe we can do it into part 2. But let's dive on in. Number 5, the Yautja. In most movies or stories, aliens abduct humans to run tests on them, to harvest us for our DNA, for resources, scary things that we do to animals on our planet. But that's not how the Yautja of the Predator franchise play. They could give a damn about science, DNA, technology, any of that really. It's solely about the ritualistic, honorable act of the hunt and pulling your spine out. Now normally the Yautja seem to like coming in on our turf to hunt, as shown in Prey and Predator 1 and 2, but hey, just like you and me, the Yautja get lazy every now and again and turn to galactic Uber Eats and order in. In the severely underrated 3rd installment in the franchise, Predators, a group of berserk Yautja abduct a group of wayward humans, mostly mercenaries, to serve as their prey on their home planet. Sort of like when, royals and like nobles bring a bunch of like foxes and ducks to shoot on their property. Now the Yautja, they're pretty honorable, all things considered, even under these conditions, so if you're a bona fide badass, maybe you'll be able to take them on and survive, but if you're just too pathetic, they do let you go. But most of us, the odds are pretty poor that we're gonna win the 1v1 in a martial combat against a creature who treats hunting people as a rite of passage. I would say the odds are very poor that if you were abducted by the Predators, anything nice would happen. Assuming they do see you worthy as a fair fight, they pull no stops to ensure victory, blades sharper than yours, laser cannons, physically imposing strength, and if all else fails, a bomb when they die as a last resort, so all that hullabaloo about honor and the code is kind of made up. And if they deem you unworthy of fighting you, and they let you go, that's like way worse to me, because that's just an ego blow. Like, come on, I'm worthy of hunting. Anyway, if you're looking for more stories about aliens, fictional or not fictional, we've got loads of that on the channel and then some. Seriously, type UFO into the search bar, you will see lots and lots. We got something for you to watch all night. But if you're not subscribed already or yet, you should. So hit subscribe, make sure you hit that bell so you don't miss a single video of ours. But do that at the end of this video, because I got 4 more alien abductors coming up for you right now. Coming up next is the Collectors from the Mass Effect series. Mass Effect is one of the best video game trilogies of all time if you don't consider all 3 games being good and important quality in a trilogy. Now the Milky Way of the Mass Effect series is filled to bursting with all these cool, colorful, and innovative, inventive aliens that all speak in pleasant English dialects, but few are as mysterious and terrifying as the Collectors. Their name kind of buries the lead, to be honest. The Collectors make them out, it kind of sounds like they're gonna be cute. Like they're just super into mint in box Funko Pops. I wish. The Collectors are an insectoid, enigmatic species that live on the edge of the galaxy who get their name for their propensity of collecting and dealing in odd livestock. 12 left-handed members of one alien species, a collection of aliens with differently colored eyes, you name it. Now when we get to them in Mass Effect 2, they've become very occupied with collecting humans en masse. Not just 1 or 2, they abduct entire planets at a time to the deaf ears of the Council who are ignorant to the threat. The Collectors are revealed to be servants of the Reapers, the ultimate villain of the Mass Effect series, an eldritch threat of sentient starships from beyond the Veil. So what are the Collectors doing with all their human collections? Posing them in cool little scenes? Well, we discover about halfway through the game that they've been juicing humans, for lack of a better word, into a pulpy, thick, viscous substance they used to distill humanity for their genetic material to craft into a new species, a humanoid Reaper, which looks pretty horrifying. Looks like this. It's the kind of synthetic nightmare that James Cameron would probably love. In the game proper, if you're too late to rescue the crew of your starship, the Normandy, you get to see the horrifying process as you watch your crew get juiced to fuel up the human Reaper. Shouldn't have spent all that time playing Caesar at the Citadel, buddy. Should have focused on your work. Number 3, the Borg. The Borg is a terrifying and one of, if not the most iconic antagonist in Star Trek history. Maybe some Trekkies in the comments can argue that maybe it's the Klingons. I think it's the Borg personally, but that's just me. They're a cybernetic species driven by a collective hive mind, seeking to assimilate other races into their collective consciousness. I feel like there's actually a probably good chance they might get along with the Collectors. I feel like they got similar goals. The Borg operate as a collective entity, with each individual drone interconnected through cybernetic implants and linked to a central intelligence known as the Borg Queen. And they're kind of like bugs, kind of like ants, if that wasn't coming across. Their primary objective is to achieve perfection through the assimilation of other species. They forcibly incorporate individuals into their collective, stripping away their individuality and memories and turn them into drones. Now this sounds pretty harsh, but you do get to have like an iPad glued to your face and you look pretty cool, so it's not all bad. The Borg really don't believe in things like emotion. You can't reason with them or talk them down, much as Picard might try. Their catchphrase, "resistance is futile," really sums up their mantra and sort of views on life. They have a vast network of ships and drones. They know they're going to overpower you and assimilate you into the Borg, and that's their sole drive, so why even bother fighting? They know they're going to win. Cold, calculated, efficient. You gotta love it. Now, if you were to be assimilated into the Borg ship, I actually don't think it would be that pleasant. I can't imagine the process of being forcibly converted into a cyborg would be enjoyable while it's happening. Afterwards, maybe, once you get acclimated to your new RoboCop body. Plus, once you're part of a cold, unfeeling machine focused solely on assimilation, you don't gotta worry about the wants, the needs, or the overwhelming stress of individualism. You might even find that you enjoy being part of a collective, Nothing to worry about. And it's not a totally irreversible process, Captain Picard was reversed in a process that left him totally fine and harboring absolutely no mental damage or scars whatsoever. So you know what? I'm sounding it out. The Borg sound awesome. I would Borg up in a heartbeat. I would love to live in a big space cube. Number 2, Roger's species. I am a huge fan of American Dad. I never thought I would be talking about American Dad on a scary channel. I don't think I should even be talking about it now, but here we are. If you're a really keen dadder, maybe you've noticed that there's been a minuscule American Dad reference in almost every single one of my video intros when I tell you to dive on in. I think it's one of the funniest animated sitcoms ever made, and that's in no small part thanks to Roger, who is one of the most heinously offensive, funny characters ever put to screen. He's a hedonist, he's debaucherous, and he gets away with unimaginable, horrible things that any other fictional character wouldn't, but Roger's an alien, so I guess it's okay. Roger's part of an alien species that looks like the traditional little greys that you see in pop culture and in like little souvenir shops around Roswell. His species is shown to be fairly innovative, as he's got all manner of gizmos and gadgets at his disposal whenever the episode calls for it, suggesting his species is very technologically advanced. Now, throughout the series, we never really get too much of a glimpse at Roger's home life or his species or his backstory. We know that he got sent down to Earth years ago as part of the Roswell incident to serve as a crash test dummy, but it isn't until all the way in the show's 8th season that we finally get a look at Roger's home planet, where it's revealed that his entire species lives on a giant space station that's been modeled to look like a 90s shopping mall. Roger's species travels the galaxy, abducting people of all manner of species, and makes them work out the rest of their days at a food court pop-up of a food representing that species. For humanity, we are delegated to shawarma representing us, which I have to be honest, if I was going to narrow the human experience to a single food, that's a damn good one to pick. I've never met a shawarma I didn't like. We see all of this happen through the eyes of Jeff, the perpetually red-eyed slacker of the Smith family, who after a dupe by Roger finds himself abducted, serving them dutifully as a shawarma cook. Now, it sounds like it might be okay as far as fates go, condemned to working the grill at a food court. That's something someone right now is doing. But as part of this condemnation, because the alien emperor ruling their species was heartbroken, he forbids any and all love on the spaceship, right down to taking a particularly special organ off your body, if you can kind of read between the lines there. So if the life of a eunuch and serving fast food in space doesn't sound that bad, then yeah, it's not such a bad deal. But if you're not a fan of those things, it's a pretty horrible life to be doomed to. And finally, coming in at number 1 for this list is going to be the horrific unknown aliens from Prey. That's the 2006 video game called Prey, not the 2007 video game called Prey. That's also about love being on an alien spaceship, but not at all related to the 2006 video game, and both of these things are totally unrelated to the 2022 film Prey, which is about the Predator. Are you following me? I'll throw in one more Prey for you. You might not remember Prey, and even if you did remember it, it can't be purchased at all, making this odd relic a bit of lost media, which is kind of why I wanted to talk about it, shine a little light on it. Prey was interesting for more than a couple reasons. Number one, you played a Cherokee character who is surprisingly not a walking stereotype. He's voiced by an actual indigenous actor. It's pretty rare for any indigenous character, really. Second, Prey might genuinely be one of the most horrifying games ever released, and gotta be one of the most traumatizing, scary depictions of an alien abduction in maybe any piece of media ever. I know I'm hyperbolizing a bit, but man, Prey made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. The opening of the game captures the vibe of an abduction, like perfectly. I wouldn't know, I've never been abducted. One moment you're in a roadhouse in Arizona, the next you, your grandfather, and girlfriend are all sucked up and carried away in a horrifying industrial factory line that really dehumanizes the abductees, treating them like nothing more than meat. As you watch in gut-wrenchingly horrifying detail as your grandfather is processed into chunky salsa before your very eyes while you're helpless to stop it. I remember watching the demo for Prey when I was a young scrapper, and a full 17 years later, I still remember every second of this brutal intro in crystal clear HD, like burned into my retinas. Now the aliens in Prey are pretty simple. We don't ever get to learn what their name is or what their deal really is, but we know they come down to the planets and they harvest the local inhabitants to make them into soldiers for their army or juice them for nutrients, or sometimes a flirty little combination of both. In-game we see several enemies that are made of the aliens' twisted experiments and merging meat with metal. Suffice to say, no part of their abduction process looks pleasant. At best, you get juiced quickly. At worst, they turn you into a horrifying little machine servant. Now, Prey is definitely a bit more of an unknown game, since I mentioned earlier, unless you already own a physical copy, you can't play it. I wouldn't say it's an amazing game. We're not missing out too much. The actual mechanics are pretty basic, save for some really cool tech stuff involving portals and casting your spirit outside of your body, but the visuals and atmosphere of Prey are some of the most unpleasant and terrifying out there. I really would recommend looking up a playthrough of it if you're interested. There's stuff in Prey that is so hardcore you literally cannot depict it in video games anymore. ESRB really frowns on some of that stuff, and you better believe YouTube guidelines does as well. That's why we're dancing around some of these words. Anyway, my ghouls and goblins, that's all she wrote for this one. Thanks so much for watching. Keep on creeping on, and I'll see you in the next one, provided I ain't been abducted.